Hello everybody, I know it's been a hot second since I've posted. I don't know if anyone's actually even going to see this, um, but today I wanted to just do a quick tutorial on the Fenix A320 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This can apply for both 2020 and 2024 versions of the game. We're here today at JFK Airport in a JetBlue A320. We're planning on just doing a repositioning flight to LaGuardia, so a quick flight, but I just wanted to go over the controls and how to implement everything for the people who don't quite know how to do this. Just a little viewer discretion, I am not an actual Airbus pilot, so I may not have all the correct information about every single thing, but I'm just here for the people who just need a little bit of extra help getting the plane in the sky. I say I'm fairly well versed in the Airbus systems, but if anyone notices anything that I'm doing incorrectly, please don't hesitate to let me know down in the comments. So without further ado, let's get started. So before we do anything with actually powering on the aircraft, we're just going to do a quick check to make sure everything is in the correct positions. So the parking brake should be in the on position, speed brakes and flaps should all be retracted and down. The engine ignition should be set to normal, fuel switches should be off, idle for the thrusters, landing gear down, wipers off, and we just want to make sure our batteries are at 25 or above, and they're both at 27, 7.4, 25, that's beautiful. So all this is good, everything's secure, our chocks are on, ground crew is ready. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to turn on this external power. Wait a second. And we can turn on battery 1 and 2. So I wait for this to power up. We're going to wait for all these screens to turn on, and then we're going to wait for 3 beeps. That's how we know the systems have all been good, and there's no additional warnings or anything we need to be worried about in the aircraft. We can turn on lights while this is all happening. So we can set dome light to dim, navigation logo just to on, strobe auto, overhead I just put it to full. Those are those 3 beeps we're looking for. You'll always have a default smoke detector fault. That's just the plane installizing. Just give that about like 15 more seconds and that'll be gone. We can put this just up a little bit and then this all the way up. You don't really need a floodlight, it's not that dark out, it's not necessary. So over on the EFB, we can import our flight plan. Just tapping. Hold on here. I'm just trying to get this back to normal here. The EFB is going to be so finicky. No, whatever. Forget that. Forget our actual departure time. We don't really need that. That's just a way to keep track of everything. Okay. Also, just for reference, if you see me not actually physically touching anything, I do have all of the wing equipment for this. So I have the MCDU and the full glare shield. So if you see the MCDU moving by itself, that's just because I have it on my desk in front of me. But I'll make sure to zoom in so you can see every little thing I'm pressing, and I'll be speaking. Before we move down to there, we're going to just do the initial fire test. So engine 1, checked. APU, checked. Engine 2, checked. Now mind you, most planes are never started in the cold and dark, usually it's from a turnaround. Only when planes have been sitting for well overnight are they cold and dark. Young pilots have to start them up themselves. Cruise supply on, and then The pilot checks their oxygen masks. Co-pilot checks theirs. Okay. So we're just going to turn on no smoking to auto and our emergency lights, and now we can finally align the aviator. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. In that specific order. It has to be in that order. Now it takes about 7 minutes to align them, if not a little bit more. And for JFK, our initial altitude, which you need to put in, you can check any sort of charts. So if you have Navigraph, just check your SID charts. Then you can put in 5,000 for your initial departures, for initial altitude. If you also go down here to the MCDU, you press ATSU, AOC menu, WX in the top right, and then weather request. Put in the ICAO code of whatever airport you're at. So for here it's J or KJFK. Put it into ident. Click yes for METAR or TAF if you really want that, but METAR is easier to read. Send, and return received messages, and you're going to read both of these, but let's look at a weather first. This is, if you don't know how to read a METAR, pause this video, go look up a video how to read a METAR, and then come back. Basically, you're going to be looking at this number here, A29er89er, and you're going to put that into each one of these barometers. So 29er89er, and then over here 29er89er. Okay. And then if you press return and go to load sheet, this is just all your information about the flight, so all the weights, passengers, fuel. I like to read through them, but in the purpose of this video I won't right now, just because I want to get ourselves off the ground. This is only going to be part 1. Once we take off, then we'll get to another part. We can accept this. My apologies if I say take off. Once we push back, taxiing, takeoff, and cruise is going to be its whole nother tutorial. So you can now go back, press MCDU menu, FMGC, and if you'd like, you can go on the FMC over here, press ATSU, AOC menu, and just pulled up those received messages in case any more come in. You can easily open them. So you can clear any previously put in messages here. So it says GPS primary loss. That's not really important right now because I know that. You're going to press init. And it depends on what you want to do. And the purpose of this video is just so people can see how it's done. I am not going to do an init request. This basically, you have to implement your SimBrief ID into this MCDU, and then you can just automatically import your flight plan. But in this case, I'm just going to manually input it, so KJFK/KLGA. And then put it in the top right. Boom, all good. And then for our alternate, we can do Philadelphia, even though it's not at all close, but it's what my SimBrief came up with. And our flight plan is going to be JBU 765. I know that's not the right flight plan number, but whatever. Our cruising altitude today is going to be 4,000 feet. Yes, I know, it's such a low altitude. Oh. If you see here, it says 5,000, and that's because we have 5,000 initial altitude, so you can't put a cruising altitude in that's less than your initial altitude. So if you did want to make it 4,000 for a cruising altitude, you'd have to first lower this number down if it is higher. And then for a cost index, if you automatically generate a flight plan through SimBrief, it will give you that cost index for you. So ours today is going to be 36. Cost index, and okie dokie. So that's our first init page completed. Then you can go to wind requests. We don't really need that today because it's just a short flight, but it's still good to have it inside. Okay, that's all good. How long? We have 4 minutes until they're done aligning. So in the meantime, if you'd like to, you can adjust your transponder code for flights that have no ATC or no controlled ATC. It's just 1200, and then you can ident that. Now what you can do, if you go to flight plan, press JFK. If you didn't see that on this page, if you press the top left button next to JFK, it brings you to this page. And then I recommend pulling out something like Navigraph right about now, so you can see which runway you're departing from and which SID you're going to be using. So if you go to departure, select your departure runway. So for us today, it's going to be tree 1 left, and then we're going to have the JFK 5 departure with JFK 5 departure. Okay, that's good. And then if we press the bottom left of LaGuardia, as of now, our expected arrival runway is going to be runway 22. Since it's such a short flight, I think we can probably safe to assume it's still going to be that by the time we're there. So you can press ILS 22. And we don't have any stars for today. And we have no vias for our approach, so we can just insert that as is. So now what we can do is we can press up here on the EFIS, constraint, and then if you switch this knob here down to plan, and then on your MCDU, this button right here, this up arrow, if you press that and focus on the ND, you can just look through your flight plan and everything that's implemented in there, just making sure all the waypoints are correctly implemented and your go around is all set. Once you notify that that's all good, you can reset your flight plan by just pressing flight plan. Go to second flight plan, and you're going to press copy active. So in case you have to do a diversion to another airport, or something happens to your current flight plan that's irreversible, you just go into this second flight plan button here, just press that, and you can press activate second, and it will just put in your initial flight plan you originally filed. Okay. That was a lot, I know. So if you need to rewind, slow it down, I know I can talk fast. Also make sure to set your standby here for the altimeter. And so that's all good now. Okay. So everything else right now is good. We can focus on the EFB. So now's the time. I don't feel like personally doing a realistic boarding time, especially because it's going to be almost 30 minutes. I'm just going to press instant, and that's going to instantly load all my passengers, cargo, and fuel. Usually on these flights, I actually have done a few repositioning flights from JFK to LaGuardia. I usually put only about one passenger just to represent a crew member on board, and no more than that. But I guess today I did forget to do that, so we're having 179 people on board today with us. That's a lot of people. Okay. So now, since our flight plan has been, since our load sheet has been completed, you go over here, like we said before, and you pulled up your received messages. You can open up this load sheet. Just press accept if you want to read through it and read all the numbers. Be my guest. Like I said, I usually do that, but just today I'm not really in the mood. Now that our fuel's been loaded, you can switch that seatbelt sign on to notify the passengers to be seated. If you want to adjust any of the packs for different airflow, usually the cockpit's a little bit colder, and depending on like weather really, the cabin's a little bit colder than the cockpit. Just like this. And what we can also do now we have our Navicurt upgrade and GPS primary active. go over here, back to stay on this page, and you're going to press init on the MCDU, and then the right arrow bring you to this page. We need to fill in these two lines here. So our block fuel is 3.8 kilograms. Put that in, and then our zero fuel weight and zero fuel weight CG can be found over here. Zero fuel weight is exactly 61,000 kilograms. So put 61 slash the zero fuel weight CG, which is to the right of it, is 32. 32. Okay. So now all that's good and in there. Like I said before, since we had that SID for departure, our heading was automatically put in there with the dot, letting us know that it's going to be managed on our departure. And because we just put in our speeds, the same thing happened with our vertical speed, or in our altitude. Last thing we have to do is just take care of this speed here, which can be done. You press up, go up here, press this little departure here, press sync load sheet, and sync live weather, calculate, and for today's purposes just press send to MCDU just to do less typing, and that will automatically put in all of your performance calculations for takeoff. We have our V speeds 154, 55, and 56. So our V1 here is 51, our rotating speed is 155, and our V2 is 156. If you don't know what all these mean, once again, pause the video and look up just the basics of V speeds, because they are an important and very crucial thing to know upon flying. Our flaps are 1, and our trim is down 0.5. So if you ever see these numbers and you're like, oh, what does a down 0.5 mean? You're just going to go over here, and you're going to scroll this wheel. You can't move it right now just because the hydraulics aren't on. You would scroll this wheel to about here, to down 0.5. And our flex temp is 70, so just means we're going to put this on climb, and we're going to put it on flex and let it do its thing. Okay, now that we're at a point where all of our passengers and cargo has been loaded, fuel's been loaded, all of our performance calculations are in, flight plan's in, everything, all of our backups have been put in. Now that we have our GPS primary, you could take these switches here, switch them to VOR. We don't have any current VORs, we probably won't have any for the entire flight, but it's just good to have them on. You can turn the ones for the co-pilot on as well if you would like, and you can turn on either co-pilot constraints or airports, or any of the other three remaining ones, depending on what you like. I like to have just both constraints on. Okay. What you can now do is we're going to do a little run through the overhead panel. We like to go split it up into 3 sections: the left section, the middle, and the right, and we go from top to bottom. So this is all checked. Our EDRs are aligned. Don't really ever touch any of these unless there's emergency circumstances or for maintenance. These are all just your cabin calls if you need to get the attention of a certain crew member, either if they're in the forward galley, aft galley, or you need the attention of all of them. You just press these buttons. If you want to simulate giving a PA announcement, you can press the all. And you can pretend you're giving a PA announcement. Wipers are checked. Okay. Engines, that's all good. We can turn our fuel pumps on now, so we go left to right. Turning each one on. Make sure none of those fault signs stay on. And this is all good for right now. Our batteries are good. Going down once again. We turn that APU master on. We're going to come down here and look at this screen until we see right here something that says flap open. Usually takes about 10 to 15 seconds for that to show up. And then once we do see something that says flap open, just give it a second. We can go up here and press start. You'll hear all the systems start to turn on in the background. This usually takes about 15, more like 30 seconds to power on. You can watch it turn on here. As that's doing that, let's do our final checks. all of our radios. This is just for backup radios for any jump seaters. All of our flight controls, once again, we don't really press those. This is all your cargo smoke. I did forget to do it in the beginning of the flight. If you do want to give your cargo smoke a test, I don't like doing it because it just goes off forever, but you're more than welcome to. Everything else is good. If you'd like, upon departure, you can press here, and it will bring out a compass just to see which way you're facing. I don't really need them personally myself. I'm sure in real life it's a different scenario, but once again, you can always pull that out if you'd like. Let's go down to our console, make sure everything's good here. Everything is set up for departure. Checked. Okay. We are pretty much ready for departure. Or pushback. Let's turn that AP bleed on and turn that external power off. If we go over to here, press a little Fenix symbol, ground services, and turn off the GPU or just disconnect it. That's good. And we can also, I have the pushback. I also have GSX, but right now it's just not working. I have to do updates with it. So I'm just going to use the pushback add-on I got from Flight Sim TO. Go here, and we can prepare for manual pushback. That's just going to attach a tug outside. Doesn't feel like moving right now, but we can push back whenever we're ready. So for pushback procedures, we're just going to make sure, usually you check with ground crew, make sure everything's cleared and equipment's gone. You're going to wait from them to say release parking brake, and before all that's done, you're going to switch your beacon light on to let them know that engine start is happening soon. You can also switch on your transponder over here, switch it to the on position, and ident. And whenever you're ready to now, everything's ready for pushback. You can release your parking brake once again. You're going to have to usually wait for a confirmation from, in real life, you'd wait for a confirmation from ground crew to say release parking brakes, but in the game, you don't really have to do that. Release the parking brake, and we're just going to head backwards. So typically what you would do is you start your engines once you are lined up on the taxiway. I know a lot of times people just have to turn them on the second pushback begins, but that's not technically the safe thing to do because there's equipment on the ground, there's people on the ground, and you don't want any potential things getting sucked into those engines, especially because these IAE engines are quite powerful. So I'm just going to go to the exterior view for a second so I can see where I'm pushing this plane back, because I am manually pushing it back right now. It is kind of a nuisance doing it this way, but GSX lately for me has been so finicky, so this tool has become a lifesaver for me when it comes to pushbacks. Oh, that was a shitty pushback, wasn't it? Let's not focus on that too much. Hey, it was ground crew, it wasn't me. We can stop pushback now. And oopsie, that's, if you do ever accidentally press this button, it doesn't do anything. Same thing with this one. These are more just warnings. If they, like these, all four of these buttons here, if you press them, they don't do anything. They're all just kind of master warnings, cautions about certain things. Anyways, what you're now going to do is you're going to switch this switch down here to ignition start. And once all four of these have been illuminated, make sure there's no warnings popping up. We can flick on engine 2. You can see that N2 speed coming up. I like to turn my ET speed on once I'm aligned on the taxiway, because I like to do it basically gate to gate, and then I do my chrono speed from runway to runway. I don't know if that's done in real life, but that's how I do it, so. If you are using a plane with CFM engines rather than IAE, CFM engines turn on or start up a lot quicker. It must just be the way it's made. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a real pilot, so I don't know the specifics. But I do know that those engines typically turn on quicker than the IAEs do. So once we see that avail, we're going to wait, just make sure this comes back down to about like 470, somewhere between those numbers, and then we can turn on engine 1, same switch, down here, turn this one on. You may have seen how the PTU come up here briefly. That's normal, that's just the sound you hear. It's a squeaking sound that Airbuses are known for. So, we're coming up on the end of this video. I will have more parts coming up for our taxiing out, takeoff, climb, cruise, descent, approach, and landing. They're not all going to be separate videos, they're going to be mashed together. This one just takes a while to start up, but everything else will go relatively quick. So as this second engine starts to gain some life to it, we'll see a veil here any second. There we go. Once again, before we switch this ignition back to normal, we're going to wait for this to come back down to 470, like so. At this point, you can switch it back to normal. Everything should be all green, you shouldn't see any extra notifications. At this point, you would let ground crew know that you have a good engine start. Also ring the cabin to let the crew know that we have a good engine start. And you can turn these two blue switches, firstly the master switch and then APU off. That's all good now. At this point, usually the tug would be disconnecting, we have radio communication, but since we don't have that, this here is going to be a cabin call from the crew.
The cabin is now secure for takeoff.
That's how they would do it in real life. They'd give us a call just saying, basically if the cabin is secure for either departure, taxi, or takeoff. They'll either do it now or they would do it as you're taxiing out. It depends on the crew or the airline. You might see this symbol here, or this warning, Pred WS off. That stands for wind shear, the W/S. So it's going to be this switch right here. You can just switch it to auto. Do not turn any of the weather systems on yet, or else you will kill everyone who's standing near the plane, because the radar frequencies are so high that it can fry anyone and kill them. So we're not going to do that. But we can switch the auto brake to max. Speed brake, arm the ground spoilers, and then we're going to go back to this perf page. Our flaps were 1, so we're going to put our flaps down to 1. Make sure we don't have any trim currently set for the rudders. We're going to reset that. And then our spoiler elevator trim is down 0.5. So we're going to go down to 0.5. And if you can't tell specifically where it is, if you just press flight controls here, you'll say it 0.5 pitch trim, 0.5 down. Put this back to the flight plan page on the MCDU, and we can now do our TO config, make sure everything is good. For takeoff, press this button here, and if you have any other warnings, they would come up, so such as flap not being in the right position, no auto brake, no spoilers armed, like stuff like that. And lastly, we're going to just do our flight control check. That consists of basically just maneuvering the ailerons, elevators, and rudders, all so that we can see their full movement and make sure they're all moving correctly. So we're going to go full elevators up, checked, elevators down, checked, and then centered, checked. And you might see they might be a little bit down, that's because we have a trim down. And then full ailerons left. It's weird. There is a slight, might see it here too. It might be not entirely exact. I mean, it's a game, so it's also okay. But I don't know why that's doing that. So those are all checked. In a real life scenario, that might have to, that would probably be okay. And then rudders full left, check. And then full right, check. Centered, checked. Okay. We have you have successfully started up a A320, ready for taxiing and departure. So hopefully, I will see you on the second part of this series. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And thank you for watching.